There we go. And commonly, even if nobody joins in, they usually will watch later. So, first and foremost, I want to go ahead and start by saying, how you guys doing? I want to go ahead and apologize because for those guys who do know me, I am a Christian. I don't believe in cussing in my channel. I don't believe in cussing at all, even when people are not looking at me. And on my last video, I got a little excited when I got sniped on my head and I said the S word. And so I'm gonna wait until somebody call me out on it. I'm gonna go ahead and call myself out on it and say that I apologize. I don't want to go ahead and be a hypocrite, and I'm sorry. It's a common mistake. But I do have a friend here, my friend Patrick.
How's it going?
Patrick he has stopped, right? You don't do it no more, mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I gave it a break.
Yeah. But basically, Patrick and I used to be really into mixed martial arts. He's actually the one that got me into doing it. Hold on a minute. Here come my wife. Anyway, so basically, I have my friend here, and we're just gonna have to want to talk about common mistakes that happen whenever people are in a fight, whether they want to be in it or they are invited into it, and whether they are in a street fight or even in the ring. So I'm gonna go ahead and start it. So one common mistake is, at least that I used to do when I first came into it, was thinking that I was going to go into this fight thinking that I had it all together, that I knew what was going to happen, and everything was going to go as planned. I was going to go into this fight. Let's say I've been training this one move for like the longest. I was going to do this move, and whenever I land this move, I was going to land it. And whenever I land it, the fight was over. And it does not always work like that. I have to expect to get hit back. I have to expect that that person is also going to be training, whether they are training as hard as I am, if not more. So I have to expect that whenever I go into a fight, I am going to get from time to time. I am going to come out with some scratches. If I don't come out with any harm, that's good. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I shouldn't be naive expecting to go into a mixed martial arts fight or even into a street fight defending myself thinking that no harm is going to come to me. You know, even if it's something by accident. Like sometimes the adrenaline is flowing through your blood and you don't feel it at that time, and then once you're taking a shower and you calm down, you realize, oh wow, you know, I got a scratch in my elbow, or like whenever I fell against the wall, like, you know, I scraped or something. You feel it later, but I shouldn't be naive and walk into a fight thinking that I'm not going to get hurt. So that's one mistake. So
well, I'm just gonna basically just touch base on what you just said, Joel. I mean, the main killer on any fight is expectation. Just expectation in general. There is, like, you know, so many martial arts nowadays that teach you, like, you know, forms and all this other stuff, and then people expect you, like, you know, or better still, not just people but yourself, you know, you expect yourself to fight that way, you know, when all it's really doing is giving you moves to go off with. But again, expectation is what gets you hurt, and probably will even get you probably, like, you know, sent to the ER, maybe even to the morgue. You never know. Because now, one thing that I want to touch on what Joel said earlier about fighting when it comes to, you know, whether it's in the ring or in the street. First of all, let's make sure, like, you know, we understand the difference between a fight in the ring and a fight in the street. Ring, you know, similar weight classes. There's a ref involved, certain rules that you have to follow. You got to glove up, you got to put your mouthpiece in, and you got to sign a waiver. In the street, you can do away with all that. There's no time for it. And sometimes, a majority of the time, actually, I'm going to say 99% of the times, they just happen. You don't have time to prepare. You don't have time to expect. It just goes on and it does. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell, a bit about myself personally. I have been studying martial arts since I was 16 years old. I actually met Joel about 2 to 3 years. I think it was 3 years after I had started out. I have done amateur cage fighting. You know, I've had three boxing fights, amateur. You know, I never went too far with it. But one thing that I can tell you is that I've had more street fights that I can possibly count, and this I will tell you. You have to understand what works and doesn't work, because if you're trying to be all flashy and everything else like that, you know, Hollywood is one thing. You're gonna find that guy over there who can fight against, like, you know, thousands of dudes and stuff like that, all by himself, not even getting tired, not even breaking a sweat at it and everything else like that, maybe suffering a wound or two. You know, maybe you'll find some guys who do all these fancy moves and stuff like that, you know, all the backflips and, like, you know, that what would you call it, that fancy jiu-jitsu hold and stuff like that. It just does not work. Not like that. I'm gonna tell you, like, you know, me personally, I just know that for a fact. So where I grew up in, let me tell you, you know, I grew up, like, you know, back when, like, you know, fights were just fair, one-on-one, you know, and stuff like that. And then you just went home and just, like, you know, thought about what you did and stuff like that, what you could have done better and stuff like that, you know, left about it. Nowadays and stuff like that, you know, you got people jumping in. I mean, you can even see it on YouTube. You got plenty of, like, you know, school fights, you know, fights at parties, you know, fights everywhere on the street, even at the corner liquor store, everywhere. There's always these two guys that start going at it, and the next thing you know, you got somebody else, like, you know, wanting to jump in, help their friend, help their buddy, help whoever. One thing I can tell you is that there's been countless of fights that I have taken part in or have actually seen, you know, that have involved, like, you know, multiple people start jumping in all over the place. Knives have been pulled. Certain blunt instruments have been pulled, and you know, sometimes there have been guns involved. So I'm letting you know right now, street fighting is way different. Hollywood and everything else like that, what you see in the movies, trust me, you're about to get a real eye-opener if you ever decide to do whatever it is that your hero does in the movie out there. You just got to figure out what works for you, basically. I'm just going to leave it at that when I say that. And again, expectation will get you killed or hurt very badly. I promise you. Don't go into a fight expecting anything. You go with the flow. You do what you got to do. You know, just like Bruce Lee said, you be like water. Water flows or it can crash. You know, whatever you need to do in order to win, you just do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joel.
And I believe to piggyback on that, I believe it's all about practice, because whenever you practice something, especially with a partner, you'll know whether it works or not. And then if you continually practice it over and over and over, like, what is that saying that Bruce Lee said? I'm not scared of a man
who does 10,000 kicks. I'm afraid of the guy who practices one kick 10,000 times.
Exactly. So my thing is that whenever you practice something and you know it works, and it works for you, and you know it works out in the street. So, but whenever you these moves, you got to realize that even when it comes to real martial arts, like the art of martial arts, there is some moves that is more artistic, and there are moves that is more combative. Even when it comes to the real, like, martial artistic side of it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not talking about somebody who's really trying to act like they know martial arts. I'm talking about, like, when you're talking about, like, we've been to some things, like, you know, you see them little kids with the and they scream real loud, and they can spin all them sticks and stuff like that, and they do their thing, and they're really good at it.
Yeah, I mean,
And
you can't really take anything away from them, and so that, you know what I mean, they practice.
and we can't do
practice.
that. And we
Exactly.
can't do that. So there's an artistic side of martial arts and a combative side of martial arts. You got to know what to separate the two. So you know that whenever you practice something over and over and over, you know that it works. What does it work for? Usually, when it's combatives, you need to practice it against somebody else because it's combatives. You're trying to combat against somebody else. You know what I mean? Whenever it's more artistic, you don't really need somebody else. As a matter of fact, whenever you look at stuff like this, usually used for Hollywood, um, they usually use camera angles and it usually the person usually doesn't even get hit. They usually go like the kick goes like this close to their face and they go like so
And then
it's
sound effects are activated.
and the sound effects and they smack a bag like the sandbag and they go like this to the sandbag and he makes it sound like they got hit. There's a lot of artistic side to it. So guys, you got to know the difference. I would say go under somebody who can really teach you how to do it, and you got to know what you're asking for. Are you asking for the artistic side of it? Are you asking for combative side of it? You're asking for to learn how to defend yourself. Go for combatives. Don't try to learn how to do all these flashy moves when you're really trying to defend yourselves. Because whenever you get jumped by three guys and you do all these flashy moves and you're pinned against the corner, you don't have so much room to do all these different backflips and all these different things. Like, come on, guys. Like, you just got to be realistic. And so you know that whenever something works and it works for you, not just knowing that it works, but knowing what you're applying, knowing what you're asking for. Like, okay, am I trying to be watched or am I trying to defend myself? Like, you know what I mean? There is a difference. So,
Yeah, I mean, but like, I basically went into martial arts with the understanding, that I wanted to defend myself. That's first and foremost. I really to be completely honest, I had no intention of competing at first. I really didn't. I wanted to learn. I basically, me being 16, all I wanted to do was learn how to basically kick ass. That's basically all I wanted to do and what I wanted to learn. I saw like movie after movie after movie. I wanted to be just like those guys and stuff like that and be badass. Now, when I first met my trainer, he was chock full of skills, information, martial arts skills, spanning a total of 40 years of training. And he taught me multiple martial arts that were geared for street combat because he was a member of the Guardian Angels down in Denver, Colorado. And for those of you who don't know who they are, they're basically a group. I wouldn't say vigilantes or anything else like that, but they keep the neighborhood safe. They are high-geared martial artists that, if you're a criminal, watch out because they will arrest and they will take you into the cops. So watch out. But my point is that also he was a bouncer for 29 years, so he had plenty of time to learn what worked and what didn't work, and he basically taught me everything he knew. And I had my own experiences. I did a stint in security work at one point. I found out what worked and didn't work. I went to the cage, I wanted to be world champ like everybody else and so like that who goes into the sport. But more importantly, then I just basically wanted to show out. I mean, that's just basically how it is. Just going to be honest about it. And if there's one thing I did learn, it's that you can never really expect the unexpected. Don't underestimate anyone, because believe me, that's the last thing you ever will want to do is underestimate anybody. You never know who that guy is. That little old man and stuff like that could be, you never know. He could be like Mr. Miyagi and stuff like that.
Mr. Miyagi, bro.
Hey, you never know. Because like I said, if he's in a good mood, he'll just laugh at you and walk away. But if he's in a bad mood, he'll crush you like a grape.
Oh,
or maybe he's that like wimpy looking guy, but he's been a Navy SEAL for 20 years and stuff like that, and he's been through hell and stuff like that, and he knows how to take you apart piece by piece. You just don't know.
A death touch.
Yeah, well, that'd be the day, right? But also,
you like walk out just
also, like you said, but then like when it comes to combatives, also, I also want to add this that my trainer also added stuff about knife disarms, baton disarms, and gun disarms. I'm gonna touch on those right quick. When it comes to knives, if somebody pulls one on you, believe me, you will end up getting cut. Yeah, if you disarm them without getting cut, you're just damn lucky. Promise you. Gun disarms, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you 99% of the times is just not worth it because, like I said, one pull of the trigger outdoes years of martial art training in a split second. So you try to grab that gun and you try to disarm somebody from it, you better know what you're doing, and you better do it quick. And you have only one chance to get it right because if you don't, odds are you'll be dead or seriously hurt.
Listen, guys, you better be getting paid to do this.
Exactly.
That's a simple fact. You better be getting paid to do this. I understand if you're in the military and this is what you do and you practice this for like as a living, it becomes second nature.
Right.
But if you've been doing this and as a hobby and then you just decide like, oh, you go into convenience store, you go ahead where you could have easily just called the cops in the corner, but you want to walk up to the gunman and try to be the hero. And then you end up not just getting yourself shot, but in the midst of the struggle, you end up getting somebody else shot around the corner. Like, guys, it's really not worth it. First of all, with the knife disarm, there is no disarming, just run. I understand there's a way to disarm a knife, but stop trying to disarm a knife. A knife is only but so much length. Run.
Actually, you know what? Let me touch on that.
There's
YouTube videos that will actually disprove, like, you know, a lot of those knife disarms and stuff, those fancy knife disarms and everything else like that. With what would really happen if somebody tried to disarm them like that, you know. Mm-hmm. It's all over the place. I'm not saying like, you know, disarming somebody with a knife is impossible. I'm just saying that if there ever comes let's just say you can't run. I just basically like I'm saying, like, look, rely on your training, but just keep in mind and stuff like that there's a possibility you will be cut and you better make it out alive. Yeah. That's all I can say. And also on the cops.
Use your surroundings too. I mean, listen guys, believe it or not, something soft doesn't do damage like a knife. But at the end of the day, you're trying to defend the knife. So like, for example, let's say you have a knife, right? Mm-hmm. You're trying to stab me with a knife. Mm-hmm. I could kill him with this if he was asleep. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I'm trying to defend against the knife. If he was to stab me and if I make him stab this instead, maybe I have a better chance to defend against the knife. But overall, what I'm trying to tell you is this. You use your surroundings. You use other things. You're trying to get away. You got to know what's best to do. Like the knife is only so much length. With a gun is different. You know, with a gun, you can be so far, it can still shoot you. But with a knife, I mean, the best way to defend against a knife is not really to do so much of the fancy disarms, but to really run. You know what I mean? To get away. You know what I mean? Like, I understand if you have kids and your kids can't get away and you have a serial killer that do what you got to do as the father, as a protector of the family. But otherwise, man, the best way to get away from a knife is just to get away from it. Distance yourself.
I will tell you this though, when we were touching up on the cops, what you were saying, I did a little bit of a stint in the police academy myself. And let me tell you, their hand-to-hand combat system and the stuff that they taught us in there, they are trying to get us killed. I'm just gonna be straight up about it. They are literally trying.
Okay, that's it. Like if you get paid for this, but they don't.
I'm telling you, like, look, the stuff that they train. Okay, look, you got foreign countries and stuff like that. That these guys and stuff like that. Like, let's take the Philippines for example, Japan and stuff like that. Those cops.
Yeah, no, they good.
They will mess you up.
Yeah, they good.
They will. Here we rely on tasers, mace, our guns, batons, 6, 7 on 1. That's what American cops usually are geared for and everything else like that. We like using technology, but however, when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, I will tell you this, that the gun disarms that they try to teach us, they were going to get a shot in the head. The knife disarms, there were none. everything was always about simple boxing and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Oh, I'm going to take this guy down and put him in an arm bar and all this, that, and the other, and put him in a triangle choke and a rear naked choke. That's all like, the stuff that they teach in the academy. And you just thought, like, if any cop lost his gun, lost his equipment and everything else, so they came across a guy who knew how to fight, I'm pretty sure that cop would be dead.
So for the knife disarm, they have nothing for that. Never taught
No.
anything for that.
No, they basically what cops rely on is the best that they have underneath that's supposedly stab proof.
Yeah, but you're trying to defend somebody else.
Right, but that's why I'm saying, like, because cops here in America, they rely too much on technology.
Yeah.
They rely too much on, like,
so basically tase them. Basically, I'll be the way.
Tasing, macing, take their baton, start swinging at them and everything else like that. Or sometimes, like, call for backup. I mean, you've watched plenty of shows on cops and stuff like that where it takes like 4 cops up that hold down a guy and put handcuffs on him and all that other stuff. I mean, what do you expect? These guys are not exactly really trained to, like, get into a fist fight with somebody. And then but I'm not going to take anything away from any other cop out there and stuff like that, that knows what they're doing and everything else like that, who've actually trained all their life in a certain style of martial arts and makes arrests single-handedly and everything else like that. Not taking anything away, just talking about most cops out here.
Yeah, but like I said, but you're not saying that there's nothing wrong with them. You're not saying that there's anything wrong with cops. You're saying that there's something wrong with their training.
Right.
So my thing is that, like, for example, if you have cops who are being trained a certain way, but if you have a cop who's already like a UFC champion and this and this and that, he don't really need all that training. He's coming in good.
Well, let me tell you. I'll tell you what. But no, well, they found out that
a veteran.
Well, when I was in the academy, they found out that I was, that I was a martial artist and everything else like that. They gave me a really hard time while I was in there.
Wow. Yeah,
they gave me a hard time because everything that I did and stuff like that, I instinctively knew how to do. I did some things on my own that I thought, like, were the appropriate things to do. And you know what? I was made to do, basically go run laps, do push-ups and stuff like that, and be told, like, that I was a know-it-all and all that. You name it, they basically put me through a whole bunch of crap because of that. So I should have just, basically everybody else should have kept their mouth shut. I shouldn't have said anything to them. But, and like I said, I did. I really had no interest in being a cop anyway, so, I really just decided to leave anyway. But my point is that, again, it does not matter, how much training you do have and stuff like that, because, again, expectation will get you killed just because you have a black belt or anything else like that. Like, okay, too many martial arts nowadays that really just aggravates me to no end is this whole, like, touch point, and you just won the whole tournament, so that now all of a sudden you're a badass fighter because you brought home, like, several trophies. You might have gotten trained by a world champion, so with that, so you think you're just as good as him. Maybe I don't know, like I said, maybe you got some particular set of skills that you got, like, because you got lucky in a couple fights. Big deal. You're no match for the guy, like, over there giving you the dead eye stare and is gonna rip your arm off and wants to beat you to death with it. Again. And it's not really worth it to find out. All I can say is this, is that if it does happen, if you do have to be in a fight, definitely defend yourself. That is first and foremost. Definitely defend yourself. Don't back out of it, because I'm telling you that they won't back out of it, and they won't let you leave without a scratch, especially if this guy's just spoiling for a fight. I mean, that's
I'll tell you this, I don't mind, like having, I don't know, 7 years old, 8 years old. Yeah, 8 years old.
Okay.
8 years old and under, doing point.
Yeah, but
once my kids are above 8, I think I need to throw them in the real world.
But you know what? The problem with that is this: is that when it comes to point things, here's the problem. We see all across America. We see in Facebook. We see on the news bullying and people killing themselves because of bullying, and it just gets worse and worse. And schools, district administration, they all, I hate to say it, but they suck at it. They suck at diffusing like this social issue that we have all across America about bullying. Yeah. And one thing I can tell you is that 75% of bullying here in America is usually bigger kid picking on the smaller kid.
Yeah.
And the point thing and stuff like that,
It doesn't help.
it doesn't help. So maybe teaching a kid maybe like, to fight back with a well-placed punch to the jaw and stuff like that, and tell that big kid so that he can't push him around. Because I mean, most bullies and stuff like that, when leave you alone.
Yeah.
Because you're not an easy target anymore. I'm just saying, like, the whole point thing and stuff like that. Yeah, okay, it's nice to bring home a trophy or two and make yourself look good, but other than that, I mean, it's useless. I'm just letting you know right now. I mean, whatever happened to the 60s, 70s, and the 80s, so that were being a karate black belt was actually a big deal. Those guys would kick your head off. I'm just saying. I mean, it's true. Nowadays.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. I just look at it. I just look at it more as like, I guess it's their little sport. It's less. It's not real. It's not real. It's not even supposed to be realistic. I don't look at it as realistic at all. I look at it as like, a lot of those guys have a lot of flexibility. I guess that's the most you can get out of it. Speed and flexibility, but no power.
Kung Fu nowadays just for show.
Yeah.
I mean, like, again, like I said, I've done Kung Fu. Matter of fact, I've done 3 different styles. But the thing is, though, is that my style was geared for, like, street combat, defending myself, like, in life or death situations, as taught to me by my trainer. I don't waste my time with fancy movements, everything else like that. When I gotta move, when I gotta strike, I do it. That's it. In Jeet Kune Do, like Bruce Lee has always said, like, you do what you gotta do in order to defend yourself, because there are gonna be no rules. So, be like water, do what you gotta do, defend yourself. I mean, that's all I can really say on that subject. So, and like I said, I mean, you got to understand nowadays that most martial arts and stuff like that, programs and everything else like that, they need to be teaching people and stuff like that how to really be defending themselves, like, in the street. Tournaments are nice. Fighting in the cage is cool. Fighting in the ring, it's cool, and everything else like that. I'm not knocking that in any kind of way, shape, or form, because they got plenty of guys who are really good at it and could probably, like, kick some ass in the real world if they had to. But I'm just saying that, again, they really need to focus on helping people defend themselves in real world situations.
You got to know what you're getting yourself into, really.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, you don't go into point sparring and then think that you're gonna go out there and try to beat up your bully using point sparring tactics. Your bully probably won't slam you the minute you do one of those jumps that they do, the little thing they used to do.
Exactly, man. Throw a little kick.
Yeah, little thing, like he probably gonna hug you and slam you on your head.
I don't know, that Myrtle Beach tournament that I had won that one time that I told you about, Joel. I mean, that was full contact. That guy, you either had to A, knock him out, B, submit them, or C, they had to give up or something. Ref had to stop it. That's just how it is. Okay, that right there, that is pretty realistic to an extent. But we had to have mouthpieces on and gloves.
Yeah.
Okay.
But hey, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end it because my phone about to die, and I already been recording for almost a half an hour. So, peace.
All right, you guys.
Yay! Out of here. Come on now. Don't laugh, guys.